Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be talking about what I'm calling the 3-level hybrid slider by TIVIVA. It is all titanium, half of it is mechanical, half of it is magnetic. We're going to do the usual, take it apart, talk about it, weigh it, measure it, compare it to a few things, have some fun. It is pretty unique, pretty interesting. Lots of different things to show you on this one, so please join me. I'll try to keep it brief. So it is a very interesting piece, 3 levels, titanium. The top piece, what I call the top, is mechanical. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 clicks, strangely enough, 9 in both directions. It is a little bit sticky because it's titanium on titanium. Not much can be done about that. It's not terrible. It does perform a little bit like a Mackie CP2, which I'll bring out to compare it with in a moment here. One of the strangest things about this is the placement of the lanyard hole. It's in the middle. That's not really a good place for it. It really should be down here on this end, or alternatively on this end. I can't really use it with my nice little lanyard clips because it won't work, and even if you do have a lanyard attached to it, you figure every time you slide this forward, you're dragging that lanyard forward that far, so that's kind of a weird place to put the lanyard hole. Just my thoughts on that. If you watch my channel, well, I'm giving away the secret now. Part of the secret, it's a pivot slider. But if you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm not a fan of Teflon tape. This came with Teflon tape. I'm actually going to keep it that way for right now. It's running very smooth, and it's titanium, and I'm afraid if I take that off, the friction could be an issue. There's also the option to put balls in these grooves. You see a matching set on the top here. It takes these. They're actually below 2 millimeters. They're 1 point something. We'll measure them when I get them out. But you can put 4 of them on this side and 4 of them on that side. And what they do, they don't act as a bearing, a roller bearing. They are in there loose, so that even when it's closed, I'll show you when we put them in. If you shake this, you'll hear them rattle around in there. The only purpose they serve when you do have balls in there is it prevents this from pivoting, so it forces it to travel in one direction. So we'll do that. I'll show you how that works, and we'll do that when we get to the point where we're going to take it apart. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how this works and how I use it and what I like about it, what I don't. It's a little unusual for a pivot slider. Now I'm going to show you how I use it. A little different than some things I'm about to show you, and different than what I was expecting. But I send it up that way, and then I put my thumb down here, and I rotate it down here. And you end up with a shape that's like that, and then I can push this back down in. And you can do that over and over again. Now the reason I'm showing you this is the best way I've come up with using it is because alternatively, this is what I was doing before I came up with that. And believe me, that is much more satisfying than what I'm about to show you. What I was trying to do before was just slide the top 2 slabs up to there without disturbing the top mechanical one, without disturbing it, and then trying to rotate it. And I thought, well, that's kind of irritating because I can never get it to go up there without accidentally moving some of the mechanical parts, and it's really hard to hold on to because this bottom part is so thin. There's not much mass down here for your fingers to get a hold of. So it didn't work really well that way, and I'm thinking maybe that was not their intent. I don't know. But if you just send it out the whole way, rotate it from down here, then I think you'll find some satisfaction in that. But regardless of which way you decide to do it, Do you see how this kind of points out the unusual choice of putting a lanyard hole in this location? It's a pivot slider, and every time you pivot it, your lanyard, which you would think would normally be down here in your grip somewhere, needs to spin with the toy out to here. And then if you want to get it back, you'd have to bring it back. So yeah, the lanyard hole in the middle was just not a bright idea, I don't think. So those are the two main methods of play that I use. You can also just use the mechanical part by itself if you like. I like that. And I like the two little pops from the magnets. I know I said I was not going to buy this. I explicitly said I was not going to buy this. It's just like the Mackie CP2. I had no idea at that time that it was a pivot slider. We'll compare this to some other pivot sliders next. So the first one that came to mind was the Battle Shield, I believe it is, by Chenyu. And darn it, I've got the balls in there. So that is set up sort of the same way. It's only a 2-level slider, but you go forward and then you rotate it. And if you turn it upside down, it doesn't want to rotate down here. It will rotate up here, but it does funky stuff. And that's exactly what happens if you try to use this upside down. It just doesn't want to do anything correctly. That's, again, why I say I call the mechanical portion the top side of this. Plus, when you open it up, that's where their logo is, so I kind of assume they would want you to see that. They would put it on the top surface, maybe. But yeah, here's a comparison, and we'll just compare these in size as well while I've got them out, in case you happen to have one of these. Another one that it reminded me of, kind of close. This thing is pretty big. This pivots clear out at the end, whereas this is an animal all to itself. I wanted to show you how different this is actually compared to some of these other ones. And that is I think we call it the Top Speed by YEZ EDC. Another one people were pretty familiar with. You know what I didn't do? Did I do that? Didn't do that. These by their sides. The YEDC Pig Nose Slider. Is also still has its balls in it. Here we go. Upside down doesn't want to work right. These are they all share that characteristic. If you turn it upside down, it just doesn't want to do anything fun. And I've just got a couple more here, maybe just one more. The Guardian by Chenyu. Fully mechanical. Love that thing. You can get this now. That's, I guess you'd call that standard spacing, and you can get it with the dense pattern. This is 6 clicks. I believe the other's 12. But I did not do a really great job of comparing these. I did neglect to show what they look like extended, but I can quickly correct that right now. And I know a lot of you saw this thing earlier. This was I was concerned about getting this one also because if you watch my channel, you'll know that this one is all titanium. And this one has a sticking issue. if you don't use a lanyard. If you use this by itself, your tendency is to squeeze it, and it gets very tight. I can make it tight right now just by squeezing on it. But the lanyard allows it to be free from being squeezed, and you just sort of push it from behind and you don't have any issues. But again, it's titanium on titanium, so I had concerns about this one coming in, and it turns out that it does. If you put pressure, if I hold these bottom two pieces together, if I put downward pressure on this plate, it becomes very difficult to move. And there's not much you can do about that. You really can't put Teflon tape in there or anything. So it's something that needs to be pushed from the side and the top. But it's working pretty well. I mean, I can't complain about that. It's just by itself. See how nice that works as a mechanical by itself? And I've become pretty fond of this. It reminds me of the USB maneuver that some 3-level sliders can do. All right, I think that's it for comparison. Let's do this too, quick. These two guys. If you don't have any of the other ones I have, I'll bet you have one of these. Mackie CP3. Pretty much the same size. And then the top B, sorry, from Metal Toys DZ. That one doesn't extend very far. That. Okay, and I think if we didn't do it, I don't think we did. This monster. All right, let's move on from there. Okay, next thing we'll do, weights and measurements. So let's see how much this puppy weighs. There are magnets in it. I will stand it on its end to mitigate that. 50 grams. If I put it on its side, a little bit more. If I put the magnets down, even more. Magnets do affect the scale. So about 50 grams. Now for size, I'm getting 44 millimeters, 23 millimeters, 13, and then when it's fully extended, '81. Okay, let's see what came in the box. We have a small Ziploc bag with spare parts. You get 4 springs at least. 2 of them were softer than the others, so 2 strong and 2 weak springs. 8 small balls, and then 2 larger stainless steel balls and 2 larger glass balls that are in here. The smaller ones are for those tracks on the side. I'll show you that a little later. But a lot of love spare parts. That's good. Good to have. Okay, let's take this puppy apart. Now to get it apart, you can get to the magnetic side first and then line this up in the middle. And then this should lift right off. The reason it does that is because there's a little keyway right here. And that's for the head of this screw to go down into. Once the head of that screw goes down in here, it gets captured in this slot. So when you want to take this off or put it on, this has to be all lined up in the middle. So the easiest way to find it is to do that. It will come apart like this as well. It's a little harder because all the magnets are trying to grab it. Do that, it's a little bit easier. But there's your magnets. You can see now these grooves that those 8 balls go into. Now the mechanical side, we have to watch out for springs and balls. Now this screw not only acts as a pivot screw for this, it's also the limiting screw for the mechanical side. So it goes through this piece in the middle, extends down and sticks out of the bottom just enough to hit this groove right in the middle. And when it gets to the end of that groove, it stops. It's the same on the other side. When when that screw hits that edge, that keeps it from flying off the edge, and that keeps your balls and springs from flying out. So the next step would be to remove that screw. And it's just a flathead screw, which I really don't like. It's easy to slip off of. When I started to take this out the first time, I noticed it was kind of tight. I thought, well, that might be Loctite or something, but it's not. It's hard to keep that on there. Oh, there we go. So there's an O-ring sticking in there, and that is what was making it tight. I'll use my tweezers here to get it out. So it's a shame they didn't give you an extra couple of those, because that would be a critical part. I tried putting this screw in without that, and what happens is it goes through too far, and it ends up pushing on the back plate, and then it interferes, and you don't want it to do that. So that's a critical part. It puts a space in there. In fact, so we don't lose it, we'll just put it right back on this bolt. All you got to do is put it on your finger and sort of force it on the end there, and then just roll it up. Whoop. Just roll it up to the top there, and then we'll keep that off to the side so we don't lose it. Now, you have to be mindful of the springs and balls. So I'm going to put my thumb over this middle part here as I remove this piece this way. And I'm going to try to catch the balls and springs, which I did. Lift my finger off there. One of the balls stuck to my finger. You can see you got two balls and then two springs, and the springs want to stay in there because they're magnetic and there are magnets on this side. So that's what was keeping the magnets in there. That's the whole assembly right there. Okay, let's put it back together and let's add those small balls back in. Put the springs in first. Then I'm going to replace those glass balls with the stainless steel balls, because I think I preferred those a little bit better. Okay. Now we can put this part back on. You want to push these down with your thumb, and then slide your thumb out of the way as you push this piece over the top. And that's done, and we can put the screw back in. Get that started with your fingers. And then when it gets down to the washer, it gets a little tighter. We move to the screwdriver. Now don't crank down on this, just tighten it like you would normally tighten until it gets a little bit snug. Leave it at that. I don't know what else to tell you. You don't want to go too far. Like I said, when I took that O-ring out and tested it, if you go too far, you're digging into this and then this doesn't work right. But not only that, you decrease the amount of space between the head of that screw and this surface, and you won't even be able to put your plate back on. But before we put the plate back on, we'll go ahead and put these, let's get a few of these things out of the way here. We don't need the springs. We don't need these two glass balls. But I want to put 8 of these in, and you can put them in, see how there's 4 magnets here? Just rest it right next to the magnet. The magnet will help it stay there. Whoop. Okay. Now, as opposed to putting it on this way, I'm not going to do that, because if you put it on that way, then you'd have to turn it, and that's not going to happen with these ball bearings in place. So you want to put it back on this way, but you need to line up that center part so that the key and the keyhole go together. So as close as you can. That was pretty simple. The magnets did the work for me. So it's now has 8 balls in there, but like I said, they are not ball bearings in a sense that they're riding, that they're actually performing the work of a ball bearing. They're only in there so that this part doesn't rotate anymore. So this no longer spins. This no longer pivots. And to prove that they're not a load bearing, can you hear that? They all shake around loose in there. So if you truly want this to perform like a Mackie CP2, hard to do with my left hand. You can do that. But I think that pretty much covers everything. Like I said, it is a little bit sticky if you on this mechanical side. If you put any pressure on this at all, it's a little sticky. The lanyard hole is in a very strange place, being in the middle plate the way it is. When you do want to rotate it, I rotate it from down here instead of up here like you might naturally want to. And of course I can't do that with the balls in there, so I'm going to pop those out. I'm going to just get rid of those right now. You rotate it from the bottom, kind of get your USB thing going on there, and I find that to be pretty darn satisfying. Like I said, a lot more satisfying than what I was doing in the very beginning. So yeah, that is the TIVIVA EDC, what I'm calling the 3-level hybrid slider. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Bye.